Welcome to the Under the Hat podcast,
the show where we talk about everything and anything that is top of mind in education.
The goal is to provide meaningful conversations to what is currently happening in our classrooms.
Stories, pains,
moments of success.
We want to hear it all.
Hey friends, welcome back to Under the Hat. We are here at, I believe, episode 62. Someone may want to fact. I see it. Episode 62. I'm super excited to be here, and just know that Sophie, she's dealing with some stuff today, so she is, being a mom as moms do, and so it's just me hosting and moderating in this way. But I'm super excited today. This is a situation where oftentimes I meet folks out at conferences, out in the streets. Sometimes just knowing each other online, but my good friend, Brian Kulak, so correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, we connected by you just watching the show. Is that?
Yeah. And nice. I was just kind of scrolling through, I think I forget which platform I saw it on, but anything that is ed related, I've done a bunch of these, and yours really spoke to me. I think the name. So good on you for the name of the show, because that got me. Yeah. So
appreciate that.
Yeah. So plenty under the hat to talk about today, my friend.
Yeah, no, absolutely, super pumped. And so for those that are listening, Brian is 26th year in education. That's quite some time, way longer than I. For the first 15, he taught English and journalism at his alma mater in New Jersey before joining leadership in 2014. Brian is written 2 books, one of which is Level Up Leadership, Advance Your Edugame, and that was in 2019.
Yep.
And then the kind of the one that I'm like title-wise, we're talking about Under the Hat, this one spoke to me too, The Hot Seat, Real Teenage Answers to Life's Really Hard Questions, and that was in 2025. So excited to dive into that. And Brian's also a baseball fanatic. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that, as well as Pearl Jam. Family man, lives in New Jersey, 2 children. Love it, Brian. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Yeah, same. I'm really excited to talk all things school culture with you, man. That's my jam.
Yeah. And so from my standpoint, the school culture piece is one of the more challenging things that get discussed we get to work on, right? Because it's one of those things where we go into different schools. I've been in different schools, different situations, and the culture, I feel, is everything, right? It's the backbone of what could make success or break it.
Yeah, and I think we make it too hard. That it should be the easiest part of education, man, right? So we got into this field because we love kids and people, and we felt like there was something we could provide to kids. So when I hear about negative school culture, that's usually driven by the ego of central office or the leader of the building, I just don't get it. I mean, to me, it's a hard job, that as well as all your listeners. But the culture piece should not be. If you invest and do it the right way and just think about the humanity of the profession, it should be the easiest thing we do. So that's where I kind of get frustrated and kind of go full force toward really positive school culture.
Yeah. So for those that are listening that may not know you, Brian, what a little bit of context of you getting into education, but also what drove you to this passion of school culture?
Yeah, great question. So I always talk about my path to this show as being a straight line. So when I was 14, I wrote an essay about Isaiah Thomas, the point guard from the Detroit Pistons back in the day. And the premise was that I was going to trade places with him. And the department chair at that time came in and read the essay. I had no idea she was going to do it, to the class. And I was just sitting beaming with pride. And at that moment, I decided I was going to be an English teacher. So that was it. So at 14, I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew how to get there. And I did. I got out of college in 4 years, and I started teaching at 22. So and at my alma mater. So even then at 22, my alma mater, my brother was supposed to be in my class. I knew everybody. our town's very small. It's called Audubon out here in New Jersey. So I knew I had to really make sure that the class culture was what I needed to be successful, to differentiate myself from my brothers, from being my brother's brother and the teacher. And that's kind of where the hot seat came from. We'll get into that later, I'm sure. But then when I got to leadership in 2014, I started actually at a district position. We called it Chief Academic Officer at the time. So most districts call it Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction and Professional Development. So I did that for 4 years. And even then, I found myself just yearning for the human contact that position just doesn't really allow. So I did some things creatively to get into classrooms and get with teachers, and I kind of made that role my own. Then I actually traded places with the principal of the school where I am now, and she became me and I became her because we had each not done the other's job. And being an elementary school principal it's the best job I've ever had. I love it so much for so many reasons. But just to answer in a long-winded way, when I got to the school I'm now, the culture already was fantastic, but it was different. So I wanted to continue what was working really well and to kind of bring my own spin to it. And that's 8 years ago this year. So far, so good, man. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that story. I just love that, your passion for school culture is in a way, in my own head, really agnostic in terms of all the things, right? Like, it's not like you're like, hey, I'm really laser focused on like student achievement data, or I'm laser focused on like a particular, I don't know, like blended learning, or like, not that those things aren't bad, or like, I'm not, no shade of those things, but like kind of going back to it, like the culture of a school is everything, and like the backbone of what will drive a school, and with all the activity that takes place there. You had mentioned that you had made this comment of like, we kind of make it too hard, or maybe we like, the way that we navigate and pivot with all this. Explain that a little bit. Like, what are ways that we are working too hard, or maybe like not really going about it in the appropriate ways?
Yeah, first of all, I love the word agnostic. I've never heard that used to describe, my philosophy. So I'm totally stealing that, and I'll probably put out a Instagram reel about it today. So thanks for that.
Nice.
What I mean by saying we make it too hard is the people in front of us as leaders look to us for so many things, but ultimately they need safety, comfort, and support. They need the human elements that make any industry successful. So when you get into a school culture that feels like a top-down CEO corporation, you've failed, right? You should be leading from within, not from in front. So there are very few decisions I make at our school that does not involve some teacher or group of teachers. And Steve, it's just like, hey, what do you think? Or I have an idea. It's not just me pushing it out because I have the nameplate on my door, right? So I think that like even symbolic things like parking spots, I don't have one. I wouldn't even use it. Like, that's to me ridiculous. Why would a elementary school principal need a parking spot? That I think undermines what we're talking about here. Instead, I invest my parking spot in the building by making sure that I know everything there is to know about our staff to make sure that they can do their job, again, safely, comfortably, and successfully. And I really believe, Steve, in energy. So that's kind of come to me in the last 8 years. When you walk into a building with positive school culture, it hits you in the face. It is so obvious. But the same can be said of the opposite. I've been in buildings where it's like, ooh, it's dark. No one's making eye contact. No one's smiling. And just to extend that to the kids, our kids see us talk to each other in a certain way. Our kids see each other modeling what positive school culture looks like, and then they want to contribute to it. And the opposite can be true. If they don't see it, they're like, I don't know what this is, so I'm going to do what I want. So it definitely bleeds down to the kids. And that's why I think our school culture is so phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I love that. I loved your piece on talking about something that seems small or unnoticeable, but like the parking spot, right?
Yeah.
But I've never thought about it in those terms, in the sense of like that shouts volumes in terms of like that top-down perspective of
Yep.
what the culture is at that school, right?
Yep.
And it's kind of like and it's like at a company, right? Like I've been on the business side of education. I've been in education. I'm now in a leadership role, and one thing that I've just found to be true is the way that leadership navigates and not just speaks to everyone else shapes like behavior and shapes how people feel. And
100%.
if people aren't feeling the way, like in a healthy way, feeling like they have a voice and they can have an impact, including the kids,
Oh yeah,
it'll all fall apart, right?
Yeah, I mean, imagine if I'm walking down the hall, puffing my chest out as a male, deep-voiced principal in an elementary school, and I don't make eye contact. I don't know my kids' names. I can't give them a fist pump. I can't talk about their little league game. What message does that send, right? You just said something that made me think of. So I'm a Adam Grant devotee. Adam Grant is an organizational psychologist at Penn. He's got a ridiculously successful podcast, and he's part of the TED Collective. And I'm a disciple. So one of his episodes I used with our staff is he interviews the CEO of Shake Shack. His name is Danny Meyer. And he's talking about how, the conventional wisdom is that the customer is always right. We're going to make sure the customer has the right experience at Shake Shack. And Danny Meyer says, no. That's not true at all. My job is to make sure that the staff feels like they are valued and honored and have feedback. And if they have that experience with me, just imagine what that's going to do for their service to their customers. And I didn't think about it in a corporate way, because I think education should be the most egoless job ever. But there are egos out there. But if Danny Meyer, this multi-million-dollar CEO, values his employees more than or adjacent to his customers, that's exactly what I tried to emulate. So I played that for the staff. We talked about what that might look like, and if that's what they get from me, and if not, how can I make it better? So I think, again, we have to make sure. I am so exceedingly pro teacher. It's probably a bit annoying to my colleagues. Like, I just want them to feel honored all the time, and whatever, even if it's a hard conversation that I have to have with the staff member, it's always going to be on that sort of human level, because I just don't see myself as above, superior, or different than them. I'm just in a different role.
Yeah. It's kind of, and I don't know if I would have to fact check this. I don't know if this quote is accurate, but I have seen a supposed quote out there, a Steve Jobs quote of like, we don't hire, or this is him talking, like, I don't hire the best and brightest people. And it's not word by word quote, I'm paraphrasing, but I don't hire people that quality for them to be just fall in line and be controlled. I hire them because I want their ideas, right? Like, they're the ones driving the innovation and the ideas there. And whether that quote was actually true, and I just butchered it, like the content of it is the same, in the sense of like, why bring these folks that are highly trained, highly educated, got their teacher credential, got professionally trained to do this thing, but then control them to a point where they actually don't have the mechanisms in place to do their job successfully.
Totally counterproductive. And one of the things I love about our field and my job is interviewing. And the one thing I always say, to our interview team is, remember, like, I don't need the pedagogical master. I can teach teaching. I can't teach being a good human. So I look for the good human first, with the expectation that me and our team, our team of veterans, can train. I have 5 new untenured, fresh out of college staff this year. And I'm super excited about that, because that's a challenge I haven't had before. And it's my job to make sure that I provide the service and the support that they need. But I hired 5 good people, not necessarily 5 good teachers yet. So I totally agree with Steve Jobs. And I have heard something like that before. The other thing I would say is, I don't hire to fire, man. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to hire to build people up and to make sure they're in a space where they feel comfortable for years and years. These guys are going to outlast me, man. I'm almost done, right? But these young kids who are 22 and 23, I got to make sure I leave the house, better than I found it for them, so that they can be successful. So that's kind of my new shift in leadership is really making sure I call them the starting five, because there's five of them, to make sure they are as supported as possible every day.
Yeah, love that. So because you did mention the hot seat earlier,
Yep.
and that book. Tell us a little bit about that book, and perhaps like if I were to pick this up tomorrow, what should I expect before I dive in?
Yeah, great question. So the hot seat came about in 1999. I was a brand new teacher, and I underplanned so that on a Friday I had nothing to do. I just was young and dumb, right? We all do it. But one of my kids at the time, who was a junior, said, "Why don't we do this thing?" And he explains this kind of like public speaking activity. And the more he talks about it, the more I'm like, wait, I could do something with this. So that night I went home and just came up with 15 life affirming questions, nothing to do with education. And the next day I just kind of pitched it to the kids. At that time I had sophomore, junior, senior. And the goal was simple. You volunteer, you sit in the chair, which we dubbed the hot seat, and I'll ask you the question. You give me a number and I'll ask you the question. Then we're going to talk about it. And then we're going to open it up to the floor. And Steve, I can't tell you how much that changed the whole trajectory of my career, because then I had this really cool public speaking activity built in every Friday, and it continued to grow with, I hear a song lyric, or at that time I was going through a brutal breakup from my college girlfriend. So there's questions about that in there. And I just got to talk to the kids, and then I gave them a grade, which was really meaningless at that time. But then kids were talking, and then they were excited about my class, and their siblings were hearing about the hot seat. They can't wait for my class, and it kind of built upon itself. So I started writing about it way back then. So that's, a long time ago. And when I got published with Edumatch Publishing with Level Up, I told the CEO, Sarah, I got another one in the hopper. I'm ready to do this. And I just put all these anecdotes together from kids in the hot seat. And what I did, Steve, is I reconnected with them now. So I have an Instagram show on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock devoted to this. So I reconnect with a kid who's now in their 30s or 40s about the hot seat, and then they get a new question based on their adult experience. So I'll give you an example. Last week's guest, his question was, have you opened or closed more doors in your life? So you asked me what to expect before you pick it up. That's what you can expect. It's these short anecdotal clips from my career with these guys. And then at the end, there's just a slew of questions for use in the classroom. You can even bring it to a brewery, and just talk about the hot seat questions with whoever you're with. I'm super proud of the hot seat, just because it took me 25 or 26 years to finally get into people's hands. And it's just been a wonderful sort of bookend to my career. That's how it started. And like I said, I'm kind of near the end here, 6-7 years maybe. And I'm just my heart is full with it, getting to reconnect with all these kids all over again as adults. And I think that kind of gives you an indication of what it's like in my school, right? That's what I care about. I care about the people, I care about their stories, and I care about how I can cultivate this culture based on humanity rather than pedagogy.
Yeah. I'm just trying to make sure I understand this correctly, because I have a follow-up question. But so what I'm hearing is you were able to provide this almost like a Socratic seminar, or like
exactly
civil discourse type of learning experience for your students, but then you looped it way back, almost like time capsule style.
Exactly. Yep.
Where now you're reconnecting with them and almost like bringing back a lot of those same conversations.
Yeah. So the chapters of the book are based on the most impactful conversations we had in those 15 years I was in the classroom before I moved into leadership. Because while the kid was in the hot seat, in real time, I was taking notes on what they said. And sometimes they say things that are so powerful, I couldn't help but write it down. And then I put it all together in the book and made sure I had permission from all these kids. And then I just kind of reconnect, not just with them, because the show is now in its 20s. So I'm a little bit behind you, but now it's just anybody who wants to come on and talk about whatever their life's path has been. So that's kind of the first part of the Instagram show, and then at the end is the actual hot seat question. But yeah, I love I've said this before. It's a time warp. I go back in time and kind of catch up with them, and then figure out who they are. Sometimes they figure out who they are as an adult talking to me.
Yeah. And so was that I would imagine that was the original intent, right? Like,
yes,
like it was. So like when you had these students when they were kids, you knew that you were going to have some sort of build like this.
100%. I didn't know it was going to go the way. I mean, it blew up. I mean, it became so much a part of it's called Audubon's culture. And then I kind of took it on the road. I used it in professional development meetings. I used it with my students in elementary school. So it's been, I actually have one of my students created a hot seat for me. It's on the cover of the book. So I have that to kind of travel with now. And it's just about, again, just talking to people about life experiences and in a way that's safe. And I don't know, man, people are saying some pretty inspirational things on the show. And in the book, you'll see the same thing.
I just, that's so powerful, right? And like, it's almost it is out of the horse's mouth, the impact that could be made when a teacher, you made this comment earlier of like, oh, the humanity over the pedagogy. Exactly that, right? Where like when they have a teacher that just truly cares not only about them at that moment, but about their journey.
Yep.
This is so cool. You're giving me so much to think about.
Yeah.
As I'm in the space now of training pre-service
teachers. Yeah,
and
exactly.
We've been having these conversations of like,
right.
When they enter the profession, ways of like, connecting with kids, especially with, some of them are in, different areas, different neighborhoods. And like, it's important regardless. But having that human connection with those kids that feel like they can't, this changes that, I think.
I think so many kids, Steve, are just waiting for somebody to ask. They just have to find the right person to ask the right questions at the right time. And I just happen to be that guy. Luck fortuitously, right? Like it wasn't my goal. Again, it was born out of under planning. But I even said, I think in the book that ultimately, as I was writing it, I just wish someone to ask me these questions when I was, a senior in high school. And I did, I got a chance to ask the kids and now that they're 40 and they have their own families and their life perspectives totally changed. It's just been, I every Thursday night at about 8:45 when I wrap, I just sit, I just sit and like think about the conversation that we just had and how fortunate I am to be able to have it. So yeah, the hot seat is certainly my crowning jewel. If I did nothing else in my life besides the hot seat, I'd be okay.
Yeah. Sophie is in the chat right now and she is asking, I think, a pretty important question of like, how would one do that when a student, like you don't click with them and they don't click with you, right? Like, what does that relationship build look like with more challenging scenarios?
Yeah, sorry, Sophie, I'm looking at the chat now. I didn't see that you're on. These are all great questions. Yeah, 14, I know. I tell people all the time, my path is not normal, man. You're not supposed to know what you want to do at 14. Yeah, Steve, great question. Look, there's a bit of a dead poet society to all this, right? I know why that movie worked. I know why John Keating was such an amazing educator in the film. And I know that a part of who I am, I think all English teachers think that's their like Bible, right? The best representation. But right, not all the kids liked me. Not all the kids wanted to be in the hot seat, and some just never did it. But I think the answer to your question is because I was the arbiter of the questions, right? So the questions will have a number attached to them. But if you ask me, Steve, and you're like a recalcitrant kid, you don't really want to talk, you don't really like me or English, and you pick number 22, and I see the question, and I don't like it for you, I'll find a question for you that I know. And again, if you know your kids well enough, I can cater that. They're not going to know what number is attached to the question. So let's say I know that you're coming from a broken home. I'm not going to ask you a question about mom and dad, right? I might ask you a question about resilience or about how you see your life playing out in 20 years in a more generic way. And even then, I'm not getting 100% satisfaction or participation, but I think here's where I think it really worked to answer your question. Regardless of the kid in the seat and the question he or she asked, that everybody heard it. right? So it's not just me and the kid in the room. All 30 kids at that time, all 30 kids were hearing it. And now they're thinking about that question, wondering what they would do if they were asked that question. So then the conversations happen after the kid leaves the hot seat and goes back to the comfort of his desk. We just keep going. So I might get through 2 or 3 questions in a 45-minute period because everybody wants to talk about it. So even if I'm not connecting with the kid directly one-on-one in the chair, something's happening. And that the kid that you're talking about, the kid who's like, I don't want to do this, but he's still thinking about the question. And if the question speaks to him from the comfort of his seat, at least I know he's thinking about it, whether he says anything to me or not.
Wow. So I guess we're just going down this rabbit hole of what this looked like for you. What, maybe you answered this before and I missed it, but like, how did you craft the questions, right? Were there like, did you get some data collection from the kids and then customize it that way, or just curious how you did that?
Yeah, really, really good question. And I get that a lot. So, and Sophie, I saw your question about eye contact. I'll talk about that in a second. So the first shot was about 15 questions I just wrote on a Thursday night. I was probably watching the Flyers game or something and just came up with questions like, I don't know, who means more to you, mom or dad? What is your life missing right now? Who's a bigger person, the one who apologizes or the one who accepts? Just kind of ruminating on all these like big life questions I really wanted to hear the answers from the kids. And I didn't get kid feedback until much later. But what I did, Steve, was I found myself like living my daily life in search of the next great hot seat question. So 15 became 25, became 50. Next thing I know, I'm over 100. And it could be a song lyric that I like. It could be something that I knew was important to me to talk about. And I wondered what the kids' perspective was. And then I did start to ask for questions, and no one wanted to kind of take credit for them. So they would just slide them on my desk. And if I thought they were appropriate for what we're trying to do, I would ask it. And then that kid would just be so proud that I asked one of their questions. But then I kind of shapeshift too, right? So if I'm with a group of educators, the hot seat questions changed. So when I was doing some PD or consulting, the questions were a little bit different. When I had my 5th graders do it at my school now, the questions were very much watered down and very easy, but still with the intention of learning more about the kid. So back to Sophie's question, because here's what happened next, Steve. So the hot seat was on its own. It was a Friday activity. Everyone knew it was coming, but it started to really work. And I knew there was such a huge gap in the curriculum about public speaking that I felt was a disservice to kids, especially seniors who I'm trying to get ready for college. So then I just built this on my own, this kind of like Frankensteinian monster of public speaking activities that I thought were cool. So the hot seat would be one week, the next week would be a different one. And over time, I started to grade it differently. And in the book, I talk about this. So back to Sophie's question. Yeah. So like autism and eye contact are not synonymous. So yes, that your son would be in the hot seat, but I would not look for the eye contact from him that I would from other kids who are not autistic. But it's not just that. It's like the hair, it's the knuckles, it's the rocking back and forth. It's the I just started to look at all the things that make quality public speaking, and I have a pitch counter. I was a baseball coach. So under my desk, I would click every time they did something that we talked about not doing as being part of a quality speech or public speaking experience. And that ended up being their grade. Now, look, most of the grades were A's because this was not about the grade. It never was. But I wanted there to be some accountability. So when you get up there, you have to actually speak properly. And I would argue that the kids who left my class were more prepared for adult conversation than kids who didn't have me. And that was just an offshoot of the activity itself. I didn't think about that at 22, but by the time I got to 25 or 26, I was like, there's plenty more I can do with this. So I did.
It's because you intentionally practiced it, right? And sometimes what I see is they're like, they see this giant mountain that's in front of them. If they were to address like this public speaking piece, they're like, oh, I would teach public speaking. What does that mean? What does that look like? I don't want them to just like read off a slide deck in front of them.
Exactly.
And like
exactly. Yep.
But for you, it's like, I know that you said like, humanity over pedagogy, but I just want to make it clear that this is strong pedagogy though, right? Like this is like you found a way to intentionally help kids conquer their whatever roadblock it was.
Yep.
To be in that hot seat, speak, obtain those skills before they graduated high school, right?
And just the honesty and humility. I'm telling you, man, some of these kids shared some things that they had weighing on them for so long. And it, not to spoil the book, but most of the chapters in the book are those answers. So I'll give you a quick example. I had a sophomore named Emily, and her question, unbeknownst to me, she had a pretty tough home life. This was in the very beginning, so I was still learning the kids. And I said, what have you learned from your parents? Now, this is a 15-year-old kid, right, in front of her peers, and she says, my mother taught me how to run. My father taught me how to hide. Now, just think about that answer for a 15-year-old kid from a broken home in front of all her peers. And it was silent, because my job in the hot seat is to then think about follow-up questions, right? It's not one and done. It's a conversation. And I had to pause. I was like, thank you so much for sharing. And then we got into some of the questions. Like she talked about how she has no trust in men anymore because she couldn't even trust her own father. I mean, it was a lot, right? And the kids in the audience just like rose up and were so supportive of her. And she was like she reminds me of Wednesday, right? She has like she's dark hair and she kind of hides behind her hair. And she just was like, I guess at that time you would call her goth. That's what kids were called way back then. But here she was opening up about her family life in this forum. So I guess you're right. There is an intersection of pedagogy, but I just didn't want to make it what you just described, like no cards behind the podium. No one's listening. We're just reading off, right? That's not what it was. So then the activities I came up with after the hot seat were all quick hitters. There were no cards, largely no preparation, a lot of extemporaneous. Here's what I got for you today. Give me your best. So the kids actually looked forward to public speaking instead of dreading it, because they knew the environment that they were going to be in was going to be supportive.
Well, and so I'm going to Iron Chef this situation, because I think the secret ingredient here is the relevancy. Like it is relevant information that they're delivering out, right?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing more relevant to them than when it's about them and
their own lives. Totally agree.
Yeah. And so and I guess where I'd really love to pick your brain on is I'm assuming this is in the context of an ELA class or journalism, right?
ELA, yeah.
I feel that this deserves to be in more places, in more spaces. So what is your advice for, like, if you're a math teacher, what does that look like? If you're a world history teacher, like I'm just trying to think about, like, how do we get this more in the hands of all humans in our classrooms?
It's such a great question. And I see Sophie has the same question. I get this question a lot. My answer is, it doesn't matter what your content is. You're the human. It doesn't matter. You don't have to cater the questions to math or social studies. If you are able to connect with kids, you can do it over coffee when they're 30, or you can do it in your math algebra 2 class on a Friday because you heard this thing works and you want to try it too. So I caution people who use it now, and I have, a lot of my former students who become teachers use it. It doesn't have to be an ELA. This is not an English pursuit. This is, again, and I'm being repetitive, but a human pursuit. So just imagine, Steve, like you're the math teacher and your personality is so different, because look, math people and ELA people don't usually hang out in the same bars, right? It's not a break, right? So, but if the math teacher is asking these questions that are sort of far afield from the standard, quadratic equation conversation to have, then the kid's like, whoa, so my math teacher's got some things to say too, and some things to ask too. So I don't think it's content related. And I do think it is spectral in that you can ask, like I said, my 5th graders a question, but I can ask my parents a question, right? Like the questions have nothing to do with content, have everything to do with the person asking it. And I say this all the time, especially when it comes to PD and presentations. So much of the presentation of this and anything worthwhile is based on the presenter. So if the presenter is monotone, really just doesn't have a great personality, can't extend questions, can't think ahead to what a kid might say and how I react, it's not going to work. So really, it's about the person, not the content. Steve, I would encourage everybody to do something like it, just to get to know your kids, especially at the high school level.
And so I'm gonna chime in first on this. And Brian, I'm sure you're either going to, it's going to be along the same lines or maybe vastly different. So like Sophie's thing is like, so how do you justify to admin that everything must be tied to standards? I think that looks different depending on the state that you're in. Let me just first say that. The other thing too is this is of also like social emotional learning nature too.
100%.
So like,
long before it came out.
Yeah, you were doing it before it was cool. I think that like the way you justify that is like, you know, I hear administrators like, hey, do those brain breaks, especially if you're on a block schedule. Make sure that you have that social emotional check-in. Like, and I mean, my admins that I've had in the past, they would have no problem if I were doing what you're describing here. But I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are, Brian.
Yeah, great question from both of you. And my hero in life is a guy named John Scribonia. So John was my English and journalism teacher. I got to take his job, Steve. So again, that straight path, right? So I'm student teaching. I get a call from John. He says, listen, I have to go. I'm being pressed into action in the guidance department because a guidance counselor passed away. When you get done student teaching, my job is yours. So I got it, right? But I'm telling you that because he said this, and I'll never forget it, and answers your question. He said in his whole career, 40 plus years, when people ask him what he taught, he said kids. He never mention content. So I would say the same thing, right? So if you have a prickly admin who's like, no, we're not, that's not what we're doing today. We're on, standard 3.1. I'm sorry, I'm teaching kids, not math today. And then my justification would be, sir or ma'am, just imagine what that kid who's reluctant to come to math class 4 days a week, how he must feel on that fifth day. So he gets to connect with me, which makes him want to come back to class, which hopefully will make him want to learn more. Because again, I know Sophie said it, kids want to do well for people they trust and respect. They do not for the opposite. My own children are exactly the same way, especially my 12-year-old son. If he feels a certain way about a teacher, it doesn't matter what the content is, right? And I think that's a lot of kids. So I think it would be great for a math teacher or science teacher to say, hey guys, we're going to shut it down today. I have a couple questions I want to ask you. Let's see where you are and see what they do with it. And then maybe it becomes a school-wide phenomenon, not just an island or a silo-based content area. Yeah.
I love the idea of scaling this to like the school site level, right?
Yep.
I know that in my area, at least out in California, there's a lot of what's popular out here is school, like student senates, basically, right? Like we have one that's at the school level, and then there's a nearby district. They do it for the full district that meets with the superintendent, and like just like things like that, right? Like I can see this strategy existing in those kind of places as well. Wow, that's super good. You're giving me a lot to think about, Brian. Like it's like it's a very unique thing. And so you're speaking on this often, right? Like you're at conferences? Okay.
Yep. And then we have so I'm taking it to Spotify and YouTube, like you. I hooked up another former student, guy named Mike, and his business partner Mike reached out to me and said, you got to do something more with this, man. The Instagram show is great, but we got to go bigger with it. So they agreed to kind of take me on as a client to build it. So we have 20 episodes or their backlog for Spotify and YouTube. And I'm going to keep it going for as long as I can. And yeah, I mean, this is something I just went to so this is interesting. So a former student of mine who's in the book and who's on the show teaches at a private Christian school about an hour and a half from me. So I'm a public school lifer, right? I've never been anything inside private school. But when I got there, again, we talk about energy and vibe. It was amazing. And another one of my students was there too. So they both did it for the kids, and then the kids did it. And this is freshmen through seniors. I'm a total stranger. And the 4 kids who did it in the time we had were amazing. I mean, the things that they said probably for the first time in a very faith-based school. Now, of course, I catered the questions to make sure it was safe. I was so impressed with them. So there's just space to do it more globally. That's what I'm trying to do, both with the book, which is, it's short, it's again, anecdotal, it's an easy read, and has the final list of questions I had when I left the classroom in there, which of course now is blooming into more adult questions as I continue to do it. But yeah, I think, I mean, I'll give you if you want it, you can have it for your school. I would love for you guys to use it out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of because you said it's an Instagram show. So where do folks go to find this?
It's so it's 8 p.m. on Thursday nights Eastern, and I am at Brian_Kulak, and then the episodes get shared to Facebook and Reels and my stories. So there's all kinds of ways to find it. Plus, each one is then embedded in my website, briankulak.net, which has my blog and just kind of my writing style there as well. So there's all kinds of ways to contact me and get in touch. And actually, Steve, what I love to do over time is to sort of move away from the familiar. So everybody I have on the show, I know, right? But it would be cool to have a person like you or Sophie who doesn't, I don't know, really besides this conversation, and then hit you with a hot seat question to see how you do it. As a relative stranger. So that's the evolution I want to see happen. But I'm booked for months with guests who want to come on who, I know personally. Yeah. And I'm going to ride that as long as I can until such time that I can kind of take it out to the world.
Yeah. No, Brian, say less. Like if you given the opportunity to come in and collaborate in that way,
dude, you're in.
And I know Sophie. Yeah, I know Sophie would be game too with that. I also, for those that are watching, I do want to put up Brian's website here, or at least just put a banner of where you can find it. And so that is the site. And I think I can do a quick share here.
So if I see your questions and they're all awesome, I feel like we need to just jump on a call, all three of us outside of this, and answer.
Yeah.
Yep. There it is.
Oh no, I have. Yeah, and Brian, just so you know, I'm having questions too in my head, of how we could collaborate at my college. Because there's so much potential here, and So here's the website. So it looks like you have some blogs going on.
Yeah, so the blog actually predates Level Up. Sophie, by the way, I saw your email handle, so we are definitely simpatico with Level Up. I started writing the blog as I was writing the book back in 2019. And so these are all kind of back. I do have some new stuff, but these are all things I moved over from my former site to this one. Yep, there's the consulting. Thanks, Steve. Sweet. This is nice of you to kind of run through this for me so people can see. And then on the homepage are all the clips too. Oh, there it is. Yep. So there's the hot seat, and then Level Up. Sorry, but I think I'm sorry. So there is my Instagram feed as well. So I was at a Third Eye Blind concert last night with my girlfriend and my best friend. So that's what that is. But all the Instagram shows are there too.
Yeah. Put that up here. So, and then going over so you have your books over here too. So hot.
Wow, that scroll's awesome, man. Thank you so much. That looks great. Yeah, there's Level Up beneath it. Yeah. So Level Up, just real quick, is not the hot seat. The Level Up is a leadership strategy book based on the evolution of the gaming industry. So just real quick, when I came up with the idea, I was thinking about, so my son at the time was 5, and he was playing Mario, old school Mario, and he kept jumping into the same chasm, the first one when you first started the game, and giggling like a lunatic. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he just couldn't stop laughing. And I thought to myself, this is what education is like doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it not working, right? So then I was like, okay, so then Super NES, and then PlayStation came along, and the controller got different, and how we do things got different and more complex. So I track the evolution of the gaming industry from its inception till now, parallel with educational leadership and how much farther we've come. Old school leadership was a guy sitting in an office kind of waiting for things to happen and writing memos, I guess. I don't know, smoking a cigar. I have no idea, but that's not what we do. So we're much more the PlayStation leaders. So that's what Level Up's all about. Yeah, some other podcast things I've been on.
Yeah. Feel free to drop this episode on your site if you're keen to it.
Oh, no doubt.
Oh, you've been on
sure.
you've been on this one.
Yeah,
I've been on this one.
The beer podcast. Yeah. Those guys are great.
I don't think Kyle runs it anymore. But that was a good little show to be on. Yeah.
And he hopped on the Instagram. Like Kyle was on Thursday night. Was watching the show on Thursday night. So yeah, he's a good dude.
Oh yeah. No, Kyle is great. Wow. So yeah, thanks for sharing all that, Brian. And so yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. I almost feel like it's even worth suggesting, if I can, like have you on again, because I feel like there's a lot more that could be discussed with the things that you bring to the table here.
And it's funny, Steve, because like my notes are all about school culture and things I do for that, and I have a little thing about the hot seat. But I'm so happy we took this little trip down the hot seat rabbit hole, because I'll talk about it till I'm blue in the face. And Sophia, everything you're saying, you are so kind. Thank you so much for commenting over there. Thanks for buying the book. I would love to hop back on, and we could even just do a hot seat together. I did it on a podcast for my college. I had a student with me, a former student with me, and she and I went on their podcast and did the hot seat with the host. So we can do it, whenever. I'm definitely down. Yeah,
love that. So we are coming close to that time, Brian, where we do ask our guests, what is top of mind? What is under the hat for you in education? What's something that you're burning to get off your chest?
So, I mean, if we're going to just stay with the same theme, I hope you don't mind, but because this is kind of where we ended up, we have a responsibility as educators to not just prepare kids for the world that they're going to enter, but to prepare them for the world they're in. And it's not a great world right now. So, I think so much about let's just talk about the SNAP benefits going away, right? I have kids. I don't know how they're going to eat, right? So like under my hat, I'm thinking to myself, how do I get food into the hands of these families in my school who need that? Sophie talked about wokeness a little bit. How do we offset such a negative, and this really bothers me, so you're going to get me fired up, but how do we offset such a negative stigma attached to education in micro ways on the way to macro ways? I am so tired of taking black eyes because of people who don't know what we do. And an episode like this and a conversation like this, I hope, proves what educators are really doing day to day, as opposed to what the media or whatever thinks we're doing. We need to get back into how important our jobs are, our lives are with each other and with our kids. So again, under my hat is how to do that, how to make sure that I am providing at least a safe present for my kids and my staff, because I'm not going to be able to control their future.
Right. Yeah. No, it is. And that's something that I've been talking with my pre-service candidates about recently, of like, so some of them are already interning, right? So some of them are they're earning their credential while they're in it, which is a whole different type of chaos.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Yeah.
But so they're like getting trained while they're in it, which does hold some value and weight though with what I do in my courses, and in the sense of like, they're like, Steve, it is such a burden when it feels like almost every stakeholder is keeping me from doing my job well.
Yes.
Like almost all of them. It feels like sometimes, right? And this will have to be a different episode, but like that goes back to like how we shift the culture. And you're saying school culture, but part of it though, to me, I don't know if you agree, disagree, is like, then that goes into community culture.
100%.
Right? Yep. Like not just in a school, but what's going on around the school, and what could the school itself do to help and lend that hand and lend that empathy and love
Mhm.
to get back on track to really put kids first in our streets.
Yeah, you're right, and that's why it's so frustrating. I'm just tired of hearing people don't go to ERs and critique the doctor. They want help and they know they're going to get it, right? But one guy once said to me, the problem with education is everybody's been through it. So in a way, they all feel like they're experts, but they're not. So if we can't build trust, and you're right. So I think that people, just like my classroom when I was teaching, kids wanted to come to my class. I think people want to come to my school. I think that staff, when they get hired, they feel the energy of our school. I think new families who come in immediately feel what you talk about, right? I'm not talking to them about that. I'm talking to them about, let's tell me more about your kid. How can I help be the best principal I can be for your kid? And then that folds into itself. So everybody kind of insulates. Everybody feels good about where they are, even on the worst days. And look, our days are hard sometimes. And yesterday, by the way, Halloween was not, it's the worst day ever for elementary principals. There's a lot going on yesterday at my school. But again, I mean, it's all relative. But yeah, I hear you, man. I'm just tired of getting beat up. I wish there was more respect for us.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Though the work that you're doing, I feel, has the potential to move needles as long as you can. And when I say you, I mean like we, right? Like whoever's in your corner, like can get the word out, right? And that is know that we're just here to support you, and we're gonna be dropping all the links up in the show notes.
I appreciate that, man.
And doing a big share out. But really appreciate you taking the time and jumping on and popping into the show the way that you did, and reaching out. Just appreciate it.
Yeah, you too. And Sophie, I know you're doing the mom thing today. Much love for that. I hope everything's okay. And thanks for shooting the comments. Let's talk offline and figure out how I can either beam into your college or figure out how to get me back on, or I'll send you hot seat. Whatever you need, Steve, is yours.
Love that. Love that.
Yep.
Thank you, Brian. All right, friends, we are closing this down, ending this live stream. Continue to share that love for the show, the likes, the comments, all of that good stuff. But until next time, keep your hats on, but your minds open. Bye-bye.